Welcome, everyone, to the very first podcast episode of How Builders Think. I'll be your host, Clone Plays. For today's episode, we have a very special guest. You might have recently seen his Republic Gunship mock series that he's put on his channel. He's known for being a member of Rebrickable and is currently almost at 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. Please welcome Lego Spencer.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for shooting me an email and inviting me to this podcast. I'm excited to see that someone's building up a podcast about Lego on YouTube.
You're very welcome. I'm very honored that you accepted to be on this, for you being such a large channel, whereas I am not such a large channel. But thank you. I'm very excited to start this podcast. I think it'll be very beneficial for a lot of the Lego Star Wars community. Because one of the reasons I started is because in my opinion, I feel like we're very spread out and not very known to each other in the community and then to outsiders.
Yeah, no, I think I was going to save this for a little bit later, but I think Lego YouTube sort of took a dive a few years ago once Instagram came out, because you kind of have this, my hypothesis is you have this sort of hierarchy of social medias. And where that falls in the hierarchy, determines sort of the subconscious amount of effort and quality that you're going to put into what you put on there. And YouTube, although this sounds good, unfortunately moved up in the hierarchy because Instagram fell in below it. So people became like, I don't want to put a YouTube video up of this because people have higher expectations. I can't just put up like a little short clip or vlog or whatever. I'll put that on my story, on my just post an Instagram caption. But I think that really impacted like how well people got to know each other, how genuine other people seemed. Like in a vlog, you really get so much closer to understanding who these people are that you're watching. I really like Lego YouTube.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I wasn't gonna talk about Instagram. I do have a lot to say about it, though, about the whole dynamic between YouTube Lego Star Wars and Instagram Lego Star Wars. I do have a lot, and I probably will piggyback of the things you said, but I guess before I do that, is there anything you want to share with the audience before we dive headlong into all of this?
Let's see. Yeah, thank you for checking out the podcast. Thank you for watching some Lego YouTube. I'm actually preparing. Hopefully, it'll be out by the time this podcast comes out, or I'm preparing. I'll have a video about it. A Lego YouTuber index website. It's just going to be a simple website where Lego YouTubers can add themselves to this growing directory of all the Lego YouTube channels that are out there. So they're easy to find, and it hopefully can sort of add to the binding of this community. It'll sort, and it's already finished. It's already built. It sorts by most recent video, so hopefully encourages even more uploading in the community. So I guess if you are a Lego YouTuber, by the time this podcast comes out, that should be up and available. So add yourself to that list, grow this community in a visual context, get yourself out there.
I'm just speechless. Wow. I really do hope this podcast episode comes out when that's ready. If so, I will make sure to put a link to that website in the description below. That sounds really cool. I'm very excited to hear that.
But yeah, I mean, the idea for the website came from, I like to watch Lego YouTube videos. I like to see what people are up to. And I sort of realized like I'm subscribed to the same like people that I have been for years. And I really haven't added to that list very much. Like every month or so I'll find a new one, but I know there's more channels out there. I just don't know where to find them. We need just a big list of all of them somewhere, just so I can go on the list and check out a random one. That's why I put on the website, there's a I'm feeling lucky function, which just takes you to a random Lego YouTube channel, and then you can just start poking around and see what they're up to. And I think it'll be a lot of fun for me. I don't care if other people find it fun, but I'm going to put it out there, and hopefully they get as much amusement out of it as I do.
Yeah, that sounds like a really great idea, because I know for me, my channel is Clone Plays. It's very, at least I've been thinking about it recently, it's probably very difficult for people to know that I'm a Lego channel because my name doesn't have like the typical things like Lego or bricks in the name. Also because I've tried to make my channel more variety, so I do Lego Star Wars and gaming videos. But I feel like, especially with this website that you're creating, I could be able to better show people like, hey, I'm actually a part of this community too. I probably need to change a few things on my channel to better express that, but I feel like they'll help out a lot of other channels, because I'm pretty sure there's probably other channels like me that we like to do many different things outside of Lego Star Wars, but we also do Lego Star Wars. So I feel like that'll be really great. Going back to what you were talking about, Instagram. So basically, what I found for myself is I was kind of forced into Instagram, mainly because I found many other Lego Star Wars YouTubers that I wanted to reach out to or communicate with. The only way to do that, besides commenting on their videos on YouTube or on their discussion tab on their homepage, was to get an Instagram. I have a Twitter. I set up a Twitter for a similar reason, and I was very active on there, but I found there's like nobody on the Lego Star Wars community on there. Everyone's either on YouTube or has an Instagram or a Discord server. So I just found it very difficult to reach out to people until I got it set up. And I'm not so sure I'm very happy that I had to do that, but I'm hoping that it will definitely allow me to and others to be able to reach out to me or me to them to set up different projects like the podcast here or future other collab videos and so forth.
Yeah, I think you definitely is it. I guess it's kind. I don't know. The YouTube messaging function was always a little bit strange. So I see why they removed it. I guess I don't know. They'd never really tried to fix it. But that would have. I guess that would have been the old ways. You send someone a YouTube message, but people would like never see them.
I guess let's start talking about your thought process for when you were making your Republic gunship mock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I definitely learned like every project. I don't do a lot of Lego projects. If you look at, I keep up with what people in Rebelug are doing definitely the most, and people in there are building much more frequently than I am. But every time I do a project, I'm like, man, I could do something like this so much better the next time. Like, but then I sort of have spent a good chunk of time on it, so I want to move on to something else. It's like I want to make a ship, or I think like making like a September ship is a sort of a totally different thing than like building like a gunship type of thing, which I think is much more that build was much more inspired by like people like Nick Trotta. His Flickr is probably the best way to find him, and his extremely tuned starfighter building, whereas it felt like building like a big September ship was much more about like broad color balancing and making it stable, or using Nick Jensen's technique on the helmet was a totally different building experience than I had before that, and dioramas before that. So I never get the chance to like go back to something and then do something very similar with all this extra knowledge. But I think this one was very much piece based. And what I mean by that is like I think this is a strategy that I like quite a bit for building, and I don't think it necessarily attributes to exact accuracy. I don't like to necessarily pay attention to like scaling things perfectly. I like the pieces to sort of blend with themselves a little bit better, which is sort of I think a cheat way to get better builds. But you'll pick out parts that you know are going to go in certain places on your build. You're like, I look at the images and stuff, and I know what part is going to go there. I know I want that curved arch there, and I know I want this slope here, and etc. And then the approach after that is just try and make connecting tissue. And that's, I think, when it becomes a lot more simple. If you can see everything that you want, if you can see all the things that you know you want in 3D space, and then you just have to build connecting tissue, it's such an easier approach to come to like the final build that you want, especially if you don't know how to do things like draw. Like if you know how to draw, you can draw it out and see what a three-dimensional version of your build is going to look like. And then you can, if you don't like something, you can erase it and redraw it really quickly. But if you're only building, because I haven't learned how to draw yet. If you're only building, you kind of got like one shot, maybe two, before you're sort of tired of rebuilding something. If you want to make altercations to it, you're like, I want to bring that little element forward or something. I want to change the color. I want to change the angle there a little bit. And that's why I really like the approach of placing all these things and then just building all the stuff that puts them all together. That would be my recommendation.
I really like that recommendation. I'm the same way with drawing. Depending on what I'm drawing, some of the sketches or drawings they fluctuate in their detailing because some of the things I didn't feel comfortable drawing on paper. A lot of my Lego Star Wars projects, most of my drawings are for my gaming projects because in games you can easily change something out and it doesn't affect too much since they're video games and it's all just data and numbers and stuff. For my Lego Star Wars projects, I don't typically draw them out. I typically just sit, and that's the reason why I've been doing my Megasort live streams on my channel, is to have enough parts available that I could just sit there and prototype something out. And then when I'm done prototyping and I feel like I've got everything, all the parts in the right places, but maybe not in the right colors, I can then go into like Bricklink or other secondhand Lego sellers, or do the online pick a brick wall on lego.com and then buy the parts in the right colors that I need. That's what I've done for my minifigure scale snail tank droid that I've got a video on my channel about, and I'm currently doing that for a minifigure scale Hellfire droid. That's sometime I have kind of put it on the shelf. I haven't really decided yet because I'm super busy with other things, but I really like your techniques that you brought up and your things, especially all those people that you have gotten inspiration from. Like what type of things give you the most inspiration when you're looking for how to put something together?
I think probably the best strategy, if you're looking for just really awesome Lego builds, probably the best strategy is go find a builder that you admire on Flickr and then go to their favorites. Because if I go to any of these people that I know, Micah Biederman or Hakeem Bricks on Flickr. You could find his link on the Rebrickable website. He's got a real curated Flickr favorites, but I think most people have that as well. And I just constantly find new creative uses for pieces, or just really well done like compositions, or like palettes of colors. I think are always really really impressive, because I sort of have long had like the habit of looking at these builds, I think, from a perspective of like the building techniques, and like, I guess, really, how advanced those go. But what seems actually much more difficult to me, that separates really talented, people that get a lot of attention for their builds, and builds that sort of go under the radar, that seem impressive but just don't have the X factor, is just like their ability to use colors and their ability to create like a really good composition. And you'll hear the word composition probably used mostly like in regards to like painting, or like the framing of a frame in a movie. But that applies to anything, like a scene, in a diorama that you build, or a ship or something, like the layout of the different panels and different angles that you do. And that's something that's really seems really difficult to cultivate, and I really try to pay a lot of attention to in builders that I admire.
Yeah, I would definitely say the composition and all the people that I'm right now looking up to for Lego Star Wars ideas and inspiration. They do a really good job of making sure the composition that they're going for works out really well. Like you said, there's a lot of mocks that I've seen over my course of being a Lego Star Wars YouTuber that some look really, really cool and are top notch and amazing. But that's because all the colors line up, all the shapes are there that you expect to see there. Whereas other ones don't quite reach that same level because there's something wrong with either the composition, or the colors don't quite line up, or the colors line up but the shaping just is not what you either expect, or it just looks funky compared to what you expect to see.
Yeah. Star Wars in particular has a very specific style, that it's easy to notice, I think, a few certain things, and then much harder to sort of feel your way through other ones. And I don't know how to do it exactly, but like, it's definitely doesn't lend itself to Lego very well. Like, it's somehow everything is like, for example, very rounded, and there's these like little light panels everywhere, but it's also like a sort of rugged sci-fi universe, so it's not super clean and polished off all the time, as round or whatever would often imply, unless you're in like a very specific location. Like Bespin or the Death Star or whatever. Most of the time it's somewhere else, and it's really kind of difficult to capture that in Lego.
Yeah, I would say the best example of something like you said that's Star Wars uses a lot of round things is your Republic gunship mock. Like the vehicle itself is very has a lot of round shapes, and you have to get all the angles correct. So it kind of gives that it follows the shape that the ship has in like Episode 2 in the Clone Wars show. And I feel like you and the I forget how to say his name, but the designer that made the one that Brick Vault sells,
David
really,
Buckles.
yeah, I feel like you two have done a really great job of capturing the angles and shapes for that very. It is a very round looking ship, and I really like the way that you tackled the doors, because that is one thing that I wish official Lego sets would have, are those holes in the doors, instead of, I guess, going the easy route using just translucent 1x2 tiles to get the same thing done. I really
Yeah, but
like the
they're not
actual
even like
holes.
they're not even translucent. They're like on opaque plates, so it's just like completely pointlessly translucent.
Right. And so I feel like I really admire the way that you and David were able to get those doors to work, especially since your doors, you're able to get it so when those doors are closed, they're flush with the rest of the top section for where the wings connect to the body and the rest of the actual body of the gunship. I'm super impressed by that's flush.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. I started it and was really not paying attention to source material like at all, which I regret a little bit, not entirely. So there's many little details, like both minor details and like broad architectural details that just aren't accurate. Not because I intentionally avoided them, but because I was just negligent. But I mean, they would have been really difficult to incorporate them, so I might have actually ignored them. But I think my favorite gunship out there, I don't know how stable it is because he didn't make instructions or anything, is Thomas Jenkins. He has a couple of pictures of it on his Flickr. I really like that one. It's sort of just unapologetically like accurate in and seemingly very advanced in terms of how it's built. I think everybody should really check that one out.
I would definitely will have to, because that sounds pretty awesome. One side comment I'm gonna make is just I'm really glad as well that you took the time to make instructions for your mock, because I feel like that sets you and everyone else who does that apart from the rest of the community, because some people can make really awesome looking mocks, but unfortunately they're like the only ones that can truly enjoy it because they never made instructions for it. But for those like you who actually made instructions, now me and everyone else who are either able to have those parts available already or have the money to buy the parts needed for it, we're able to put it together and enjoy it just the way that you do in person.
Yeah, I definitely, if you definitely gotta build. I started, by the time I decided to make instructions, which was definitely not the whole time, I started to build a bit differently with other people in mind, and was trying to make like conscious decisions to make it an easier build process, more stable, and use parts that weren't just easy for me, because I've got like random parts that I've collected over, it's like a very short run of a PAB part or something that I very frequently use. I think I'm excited to see the first person that has one done. I know I've seen comments of people that have ordered parts from a monetary perspective. Also, if you make YouTube videos, you will make, even if you sell like only a couple sets of instructions, you will make so much more money off of instructions than ad revenue. Ad revenue is a black hole if you aren't like a really big YouTuber. So I think it's worth it. Like the instructions for the gunship probably took about 20 hours, and that means step by step building it very carefully in studio, and then going through all the the pages themselves and fixing them up and things. So it wasn't an enormous investment in time. Nick Trotta, who's the shipbuilder that I mentioned earlier that I really admire, he hasn't made PDF instructions himself, but he has a YouTube channel. It's called Intergalactic Plastics, where he has literally just step-by-step video building instructions for some of his ships, not his most recent ones, which are definitely his most impressive, but they've become so enormously daunting to make step-by-step video building instructions for that I don't know if he's ever gonna do those again. But those are free and publicly available and definitely worth checking out for some. He's got a very particular building style that you will pick up on that is really impressive, and I think extremely useful if you're trying to build something that is structurally sound. He is relentless with making sure Lego math is perfect, and if you want your build to be rock solid, that's how you do it. So totally check him out.
Nice. That's pretty cool that he has made video instructions. Go check that guy out. If I remember, I'll put a link to his channel when I find it later in the description box below. For someone to make something that you've made instructions for, it is very exciting, and it's very warming to the heart because one of my viewers who typically comes out to a lot of my live streams, he recently downloaded one of my instructions for my snail tank that I've made and has told me he's going to build it. So I'm super excited to hear that people are excited for it, because I was super excited to put it together. I apparently had way more complications than you when putting instructions together. I had Studio crash on me like 4 times trying to put it together, but I eventually got it. And the only problem with it, there's a slight variance from the one that you can find on my Rebrickable page than the one I have in my video on my channel, because the one on my channel is the prototype. But I'm super excited also to know that someone wants and has downloaded those instructions. I'm excited what he does with it, and if he has any problems, I've told him to let me know so I can fix it. But let's move on to the trivia question. So I've got 4 prepared for you, all ranging from different aspects, or at least I try to, different aspects of YouTube. So I guess let's just start with the first one. Are you ready for these?
Ready to go.
Okay, so trivia question number 1. In your video named Lego Order 66, which Jedi was it that was killed?
Is this that like goofy brick film from like many years ago?
Most likely. I went
Yeah.
through and picked out some of your more early videos. I always, for all the ones that have agreed to be on the podcast, I've always watched the very first video you've posted, if I remember right. But yes,
Ooh.
I'm pretty sure this is from that little goofy movie or stop motion you made.
Yeah, I would have to go with Luminara Unduly if I remember correctly.
Yes, it was Luminara. If I remember right, it was supposed to be like the 41st shot her. It has been a little bit since I've done my research. Not to date this podcast, but all of my questions I researched on the 9th. I'm a little hazy on the specifics of the rest of the video, but for the questions, I've got the answers rock solid.
Yeah, can't say I've made a couple brick films that I'm not ridiculously proud of, but I also don't like to delete old videos. I think there's like when you go from being like 10 to being 20, you change everybody changes a ridiculous amount as a person, and every year you look back at yourself just a year ago, you're like, oh my god, why was I the way that I was? And then that just multiplies every year that you go back. But I still try and leave up everything, no matter how cringy or weird they are.
I'm the very same way with all my old videos. Every time I like see them on my channel, I'm like, why did I make it like this, or why did I say this in here? But all right, trivia question number 2. When did you reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube?
That would have been probably sometime in 2013, right? If I were to guess.
You're close. As far as my research is concerned, the specific day was May 11th, 2014.
I was a little bit off. Probably about a year off.
Only
I'm being too
year.
optimistic about my about how fast my young self could grow.
But you've definitely grown quite a bit since then, though, because you are almost at 10,000, which is very impressive.
Yeah, I'm going for the 10,000 subscribers is something that I've had like 3 different pushes for 10,000 subscribers. I'm like, I'm gonna upload a bunch of videos and then I'm gonna get 10,000 and it's gonna be awesome. And it hasn't, none of those I like ever completed. I remember like the beginning of like my sophomore year of high school, it was like, write an essay about your goals for this year or whatever. I was like 10K, that's what's happening. And then it didn't. But now it seems almost definite. I'll be there pretty soon, and then I will have the 5 digits and my life will be complete, right?
Hopefully that's the way it works. But moving on to trivia question number 3. Which mock video on your channel currently has 66,000 views?
This one I got no idea about, I'm not gonna lie. I could go look at my own videos, but is that cheating on trivia?
Just a little bit, but if you had, I wouldn't have blamed you. So the answer then is, if you change the settings for looking on the videos on your channel, the most popular of the day that I did my research for this podcast, it was your Force Awakens First Order Walker.
That one still gets views every once in a while. I get comments. People are like, man, that's such an ugly build. That's every single time. Like, that's such a what a ugly create. You know, they're I guess they're referring to like the real thing, but everybody hates what that thing looks like. I never despised it that much, but it's sort of a
Well, for me personally, I actually, when I first watched The Force Awakens, I didn't even notice it in the background until afterwards when people pointed out. And now when I see your build, it's like, yep, he nailed that right on the head, and it does look ugly.
yeah. I should have put pictures from the movie in there, screenshots.
It's just, I think for most people, the reason they call it ugly is just not what you expect. But all right, last trivia question: who taught you how to make Lego guns?
That would have been the homie Bryce, Brick Built Replicas.
You are correct.
Got him. Yeah, I went out to. He also lives in the same rough geographic area that I do, so I went out to his place and he helped me. We made a little video where you could just talk about, because he was building stuff that was totally different from me. I've since built one Lego 1-to-1 scale blaster, but he's much more experienced with that, so he's able to talk about that a little bit. It was fun.
He did a really good job when I was watching that video for my research. He did a really good job of explaining everything. I've always been fascinated, especially when people make the Lego guns that can actually shoot stuff. I've always been fascinated by those, but I've never actually taken a stab at it myself. I'm afraid I don't think I have all the parts needed in my collection to do that. Until now, I've recently collected a bunch of the rubber bands and stuff, but back in the day when I was super into that stuff, yeah, I did not have the parts needed. But all right, where can viewers go to reach out to you?
Yeah, I think probably. Okay, yeah, we talked about this earlier. The best way to probably reach me is Instagram, but at Lego Spencer 11 on Instagram, Lego Spencer on YouTube. If you want just all my if you want links to those, rebellug.com, I'm up towards the top of the member page, and that'll have my Flickr, my Instagram, my YouTube, and Facebook.
Yeah, I'll put a link to the Rebrickable website. That way, everyone watching this can also go check out everyone else who's a part of Rebrickable, because everyone who's a part of Rebrickable that either makes videos or has posted stuff on Flickr, you guys all inspire me, because you guys are all really good at what you do. So, very last thing that we'll show for this podcast is I asked you to send me a clip. So do you mind explaining what the audience is going to see in that clip?
Yeah, so that's what you're going to see a part of one of my recent gunship build log videos.
So I hope you guys all enjoy that. We'll sign out here. My guest has been Lego Spencer. You can check him out on his YouTube, also called Lego Spencer. All the links to try and find him, and especially the other Rebrickable guys and members of that group, will be in the link below. I have been Clone Plays as your host. Please go and subscribe if you really like this to both Lego Spencer and to myself, where you'll find more podcast episodes on my channel.